The metal year might be winding down, just like, the calendar year. We're at the last week of November already. Where is the time gone? But just because there's not been a huge bevy of major releases that have come out this week doesn't mean that there haven't been a ton of great metal that has actually come our way this past weekend. So that's what we're going to talk about today. 5 isn't enough, so once again, we're going to go with 6. These are 6 recently released albums that you should definitely check out. And we're going to start all guns blazing with Aenaon with Hypnosophy. This is a heck of an album. Fans of Hail Spirit Noir and that sort of bizarre blend of progressive black metal with avant-garde influence will certainly really like this album. They'll dig the real intermixing, interweaving between the harsher vocals, the higher pitched vocals, the clean vocals, the choral vocals, the female vocals, the horn section that you get, the synths. There is a lot going on here. Earth Tomb, which is track number 3, is easily one of the most hypnotic and best songs from the fourth quarter of 2016, and it all ends with a 15-minute finale that certainly will leave jaws on the floor. I love the fact that this album really just explores the whole entire sonoscape of this band's real opportunity, or their real bag of tricks, in order to dig up and craft really bizarre but also strangely ingenious work. It's just 7 tracks of pure goodness. If you really enjoyed Hail Spirit Noir's most recent album, Mayhem in Blue, you're going to perhaps like this even better. And really, just fans of, the bizarre in general will really dig this. This I would not necessarily call the surprise of the week, but this is certainly an album that has Album of the Year contention written all over it. Kärgeräs returned from Oblivion by the long-lasting band Roots. These guys are a big-time foundation to the second wave of black metal. They have a big-time influence through Bathory. There is a satanic influence there as well, considering Big Boss in this band founded the Czech Republic branch of the Church of Satan. So, I wonder what this is going to be. Is it black metal? Not in the conventional sense. No, this is black metal that has some tones of doom. It also has some elements of just standard heavy metal. This has some 1980s occult influence that really washes over it. You get these big-time sort of choral effects, very deep vocals that really swirl around these traditional heavy metal style riffs that have a little bit of an element of thrash every once in a while, but usually the pacing is one that slows or sticks within the mid-range in order to get the job done. These guys have had a long, elaborate career. This is an album that for newcomers may not necessarily be the best starting point, but it's not too bad. Life of Demon introduces you to the choral style vocals, or at least those deeper registers that Root are able to provide in its first 5 minutes. And this is one that really opens up with tracks such as Moment of Hope or The Key to the Empty Room, which are the 6-minute long cuts on this disc that really showcase Root's sort of ability to mold all of these different styles of metal together in order to craft some sort of strange puzzle. It's one that has evil sort of written all over it. This is definitely one to scope out if you want to know a little bit about black metal history, but also scope out a decent heavy metal album at the same time. Arcade Messiah with 3. Now, here's the funny part about this band. If you look anywhere, they're seen as a progressive / post-metal band that has some rock influence, but if you listen to Revolver, which is the very first track off of this album, you would swear that they were perhaps a little bit more affiliated with stoner rock, either that or even some elements of Sabbath-era style doom metal. Now, this is the only track on this album that has vocals to it. The remainder of this is completely instrumental, and that's where the progressive / post-metal stylings really start to really overwhelm and overcome perhaps what you heard from the very first cut. This is a 6-track affair that is really dominated by its melody, not to mention really trying to build atmosphere, build mood, and build the overall setting for each one of these tracks. No, track number 3 is not a cover of Deliverance by Opeth, however it is a signature cut at 10 minutes and 27 seconds, nearly the same length as that other track, and is certainly one of the better songs on this disc, with Black Tree and the closer Sanctuary also coming very close to that title. I'd like to hear a little bit more vocals from these guys, even though Revolver's vocals were kind of distant and in the background. This is a one-man project, so it's definitely a bit of a step in the right direction, or at least, perhaps a risk. But either way, pretty solid work. You should certainly give this one an examination. Coven, or Evil Ways Instead of Love by Ghoules. Now, I don't know if we can sum up a 90-minute album in just a couple of minutes, but we're going to try. We might actually revisit this album in a full-length review later on this week, so stay tuned for that. This is a 5-track affair. Each one of these songs eclipsed the 10-minute mark. These guys are a black metal band that with this album certainly has become a hell of a hybrid. There is that old occult heavy metal influence that's in here. There's some elements of doom, and there is a lot of theatrics that go with this, considering this takes the form of a play or it takes the form of setting the scene. It's very interesting, not to mention if you read along with this, it's pretty well written. Each character has noticeable follies, either that or a noticeable style that makes them a little bit unique. Some are more intelligent than others. Others speak with a certain accent, either that or a lacking of intelligence in order to give them a little bit of extra oomph. So, wow, a lot to talk about with this one. The prophecy definitely adds a very haunting atmosphere. The vocals are very much going to stick between each of these different characters. You're not going to get a lot of individualism with them, which can be seen as a bad thing, but I think it does give the whole entire album and scene a very unified voice. And I like the fact that they do expand a little bit of the repertoire. You get some nice organs at the start of Mischief, the Devilry is at Toil. And then whenever you get into disc 2 of this, which is Satan, Father, Savior, Hear My Prayer, which is 28 minutes, holy shit! Wow, you get a full experience with this album. It's grandiose. I think we do need to revisit this later this week, so stay tuned for that. But I wanted to put the recommendation out. Scope this out. It's massive. So after that massive pillar of destruction, here's your thirst quencher. Seldom Few, with their self-titled album. These guys are from the Western Isles of Scotland. They have a progressive rock sound that actually borders a little bit more on traditional rock than it does progressive rock, so it's definitely a large shift from Called the Ghoules. But this is an album that is sort of known a little bit more for just having that nice, easy sort of alternative listen to it. Barely a Moon definitely captures that atmosphere, and it does have a lot of atmospheric qualities in the fact that it's not one that's dependent upon hard ripping and, big time, sort of concert sounding or arena sounding rippage in order to really gain your attention. It's instead one that aims to do so with a little bit more subtlety, which is seen more so on tracks such as Into Sun or Candle for the Blind. But then you get the Translucent and the Parting Waters, which are the two massive tracks on this album, the first of which hitting almost 6 minutes and the second one eclipsing the 7-minute mark. And this is where that prog rock influence really starts to show up a little bit more, considering they use the space, they use the openness of the atmosphere that they have crafted in order to make really tense and also very melancholy songs that have a lot of character and a little bit of subtle movement to go along with them. This is certainly something that will appease prog rock fans, and definitely will even appease some of those alt-rock junkies that are maybe looking for a brand new band, thinking that perhaps rock radio is dead. Scope out Seldom Few, and let me know what you think. Our journey concludes today with Aenaon with Ironshore. This is their debut album, and these guys are a progressive death metal / gent hybrid that definitely has some of the gent-isms within their 9-track debut here. This is one that definitely is heavy on the riffs. There's a lot of aggressiveness. The death metal vocals are very clear. It actually starts off with Barn Burner, the very first cut, with vocals that sound a little bit more closer to brutal death as opposed to just standard prog death, and really it just doesn't stop from there. It's instead an album that really maintains its pacing, only stopping or slowing down in order to try to build a little bit of atmosphere, especially whenever it comes to their 11-minute long 4th track entitled The Science. And this is actually where the band shows a lot of great developments. This is a group that can command your attention for 11 minutes and 15 seconds with a track such as this one, but typically hovers around the range of maybe 3 to 5. I would actually like to see this band do a little bit more to, stick with some longer narratives, as that seems to really be their strength. Some of the other songs do tend to sort of run together and feel like they have a lot in common, as opposed to really being very individual. But for a debut, this is a really solid disc. This is certainly one that should be scoped out by fans of progressive death metal, and definitely one that gent fans will probably want to orgasm over after they finally get the opportunity to listen to it. So scope this one out. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. 6 recent releases from this past weekend that you need to hear immediately. This is good stuff. And if there's anything that I missed from this past weekend, please be sure to let me know in the comments below. What's coming this coming weekend? That's a lot of coming. I'm coming. It's the first weekend of December. Let me know what you hope perhaps will show up on next week's episode. I'm coverkillernation, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, thanks again for checking out this video. You can scope out the playlist of all of the episodes of 5 recently released albums to your left, and to your right, you can see other album reviews that were done here in 2016 that got, the full treatment. You can also subscribe to the channel and scope out my Patreon while you're at it. I would really appreciate that. Thanks again for viewing. Have a great day.